Hi everyone! So I'm pretty sure that most of you have seen all of those abstract painting videos going on right now. They put a tiny little blob of paint on the canvas and they smooch it around and then it somehow turns into a Bob Ross painting. That is impressive. I actually have a bunch of acrylic paints, as you can see, so I thought why not try to do some of these things myself. I'm gonna try out a few different projects in this video with some different techniques, so yeah, stay tuned for that. Also, the acrylic paints that I'm gonna use, as you may have seen, is from Arteza. Thank you very much Arteza for providing me with delicious art supplies. I am not sponsored, but the links to these products in the description box below are affiliate links, which means that while you're getting yourself some affordable, delicious art supplies, you will also be supporting me and this channel at the same time, so yeah, win-win. So we have some regular acrylic paints that comes in these little baggies. We have some pouring acrylics, which are a little more liquidy so that you can use them for, yeah, acrylic pour. We have some beautiful iridescent acrylic paints with shimmers in different colors. They are like metallic, but they are so pretty. And we have two sets of canvas panels, one in black and one in white. And it comes in sets of 14, so there is plenty of room for, I don't want to call it failure, but yeah, maybe a little bit of practice, I guess. So yeah, let's get started. Alright, so the first project that I'm gonna try to recreate is by Oliver Maas. I will have links to all the videos that I used for references in the description box below. So they have a white canvas, but it seems like they painted the edges black, so I will just use a black canvas to save me some time. Acrylic paints is opaque anyway. Then it's time to slap on some paints. They are doing these lines of paint in rainbow color order, which is so pretty. Also, apologize for the ugly, boring background in this video. I wanted to protect my desk because I am a very messy painter, so don't look at it too much, please. Focus on the colorful art. And now it's time to spread out all of that paint with a palette knife to get that nice abstract texture. Just look at that. This is so satisfying, just pushing around that smooth paint. Also, that pink that I used was way too obnoxious for my liking, so I just hid it under the purple. You would have thought that the name Shocking Pink would have been a warning sign, but anyway. But I had to be very careful though to not mix the colors too much and get them muddy. All of these colors could easily become brown. Also, every time I used yellow for any of these projects, I had to use a lot of yellow. It is like it is just disappearing into all the other colors. And then we'll finish it all up by adding some paint splotches. Honestly, I was a little skeptical to the blue or teal paints all over these pretty rainbow colors, but I actually really like it. I think it adds a little more interest to the whole piece. Then the best part, removing the masking tape and revealing those nice crisp edges. Not too bad if I do say so myself. Mine may look a little rougher than the original, but still very pretty. And since I had so much fun with the first one, I couldn't resist making another one. This time I did the strokes more vertical, more straight up and down, and I tried to add in a little more yellow too. But yeah, here they are. I love how these turned out. They look so good with the black border around all the colors. I think I do prefer the first one with the diagonal paint strokes. It feels a little more alive. Let me know which one you prefer. So yeah, when I saw this art from Surai Fine Arts, I knew I had to include it into this video because, you know, it is a cat, I can't help myself. So they just jumped straight to having a masking tape cat on the canvas, so let's do that. I covered the canvas with tape and I drew my little kitty, and then I cut along the lines with an X-Acto knife, and I made my cat a little differently from the original because I wanted to keep my own style. I also thought it looked a little empty to the right of the cat, so I added a crescent moon. So now when we have our little kitty template, it is time to add the paint blobs and mush them around. Very nice and all that, but I'm just gonna skip through this whole part because I kinda messed this one up. I had some major trouble making the yellow stand out from the rest of the colors, so I over blended and the yellow got all muddy and the paint got really thick. And then I tried to save it by adding some cool circles and lines with fluid paints like the original artist did, but it just looked gross. So I put this to the side to let it dry and decided to give it another try. That rhymed a little too much. So masking tape, kitty drawing, cutting out kitty, paint blobs, and now let's try this again. I left the yellow till last to make sure to not contaminate it with the other colors too much. And this time I felt much more happy with the result. The colors looked really bright and lovely, and I liked the messy abstract pattern. I noticed that the original artist did like cuts or lines with a palette knife in the paint to add some extra texture, but that didn't really appeal to me, so I just skipped that. But I really wanted to give those circles another go, so instead of using liquid paints as I did before and swirl it around, I actually dipped glass jars in thinned out paints and I used them to create the circles, and I used a bottle cap for the smaller circles, and it actually turned out really nice. And the original artist didn't do this obviously, but since I loved it so much in the previous painting, I added teal and yellow paint splotches. I really love how this one turned out. I mean, look how colorful and pretty it is. I do actually prefer it on the black canvas, to be honest. I think the black background makes it look a little more finished, I suppose. Also, let's not forget this one. I don't hate it, but the colors looks a little muddy and the yellow lines all over it looks watery and weird. I also cut a little too deep with the X-Acto knife so that the canvas split in some places. I could fix it with a little bit of paint though, but yeah, what do you say? White canvas, black canvas, which one of these do you like the most? The next art project is from Kattvalk Easy Art, and I'm pretty sure I didn't pronounce that correctly, so I'm sorry. They start by adding this paint or putty, it looks like, to the canvas to create texture like little mountains, and I don't have that kind of putty thing, so I will try to use gesso instead. Not exactly the same, but let's try it. I'm just adding the gesso to the canvas, trying to build it up a bit to get a nice texture, and I'm making two pieces just in case. Then they are adding this gorgeous dark grayish blue with a rag or a paper tissue, it looks like. And here is when I realized that they are probably using oil paints. I think it is even in the title of the video. Oil dries much slower than acrylic and can be pushed around a lot easier on the canvas. So I struggled a little with my painting since acrylic, it dries so fast. I'm using like a spongy washcloth to spread out the paint with, and I'm not getting a lot of texture from the gesso, to be honest, since it was hard to build up height with. I should probably have done multiple layers, but gesso takes forever to dry, so I didn't really have time. But it kind of looks like a cloudy night sky or galaxy, so I added some stars and called it a day. So I tried doing my own thing with other canvas using a bunch of colors, and then I kind of wiped them off again to get out the texture from the gesso. And then of course yellow and teal paint splotches. That is a really effective way of adding more interest to a painting. I love it. And I think both these pieces turned out a little meh, to be honest. The first piece is not as pretty as the original, but I also didn't use the same materials, so... But it was still a very fun and interesting, and to me a new way of creating abstract art, so yeah, I kind of enjoyed it. And then the next abstract painting that I'm gonna try to recreate is by Wiggles Art, and I'm pretty sure you've seen this technique before. I've seen it all over Facebook. Putting a string in paint and then you pull it over the canvas to create a flower looking texture. I think it looks so fun, so let's try that. They start by adding liquid paint to the canvas, so I used the Arteza Acrylic pour paints, and I honestly thought that they were using white paints, but looking at it now it is clearly blue or grayish blue, but then when they do the string pulling thing it looks white, so I guess that confused me. They put the strings in cups and soak them in paint like so, and then you're just supposed to put them on the canvas in this squiggly manner, and when you pull the string they will create this gorgeous organic looking flower texture. But I think the string that I used was a little too thick and stiff, because when I pulled it it just dragged over the canvas. I mean, it looks kind of cool, but I want more of those leafy textures. This is more tree than flower. So one more try. I think yarn would have been perfect for this project, but I didn't have any at home, so I tried this thinner natural string instead that seemed a little more smooth to work with. And yeah, look at that! Now we get this cool floral pattern that I was looking for, and I'm using the pouring acrylics for this too. It is easier to soak the string in more liquidy paints. And then I added little dots to fill up the empty space with. I think it looks kind of cool. I love the floral look. I do regret a little using a white background. It makes it a little boring, but it was still a very fun project. I'm happy I finally got to try this out myself. Then we come to the final abstract art project, and this is by Eureka Youth Art, and here, like in the previous project, I will only use the liquid or the pouring acrylics. So I have done acrylic pourings in the past. It is really fun, but also very messy, so I never did it again, unfortunately. This technique, however, seems a little less messy. So it looks like they start with a wet canvas, so I'm adding liquid paint to mine too. Also, I have tape all around the edges of the canvas, so I can more easily move it around without getting paints all over my fingers. So they're using a pinkish purple, blue and metallic green that they swirl straight over the canvas. And I want to use one of the iridescent paints, but they are not very liquidy, so I had to add a little bit of pouring medium to the paint to make it a little more fluid. Then the original artist used some cut up playing cards, it looks like, to swoop out the paints. And doesn't that look so satisfying? It is gorgeous. Let's try to do that. So mine definitely came out looking a little more organic color-wise. I think the iridescent paint gave it kind of like a brownish bronze color somehow. It reminds me of minerals or stones kind of. I think it looks just fabulous anyway, even if it looks a little different from the original. Then I of course had to try it out on black canvas too. I tried a little different color scheme with some lighter paints, and this time I used the iridescent paint called Playful Pink, but it looks more white with a slight pinkish shimmer. Very pretty. I just love how the colors pop on the black background. It is beautiful. And then I remembered that failed painting from earlier, so I gave it a little bit of a makeover. I really love how these turned out, way prettier than when I did acrylic pour a few years ago and less messy. I did some touch-up where the paints had leaked under the masking tape, and then I added a little bit of glossy varnish to them, and I think they turned out so pretty. Let me know which one you like the most. I think the mineral one is my favorite. So yeah, there you have them. I am usually not really that into abstract art, but I had so much fun with all of these projects. It was great trying something new and using different techniques, and I discovered something about myself. I find it very relaxing just pushing paints around with a palette knife. Also, don't forget to check out Arteza. I can really recommend their art supplies. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Keep drawing my happy cats or painting my happy cats. Bye!